statewide, nationwide. Welcome into another episode of the Three Man Rush right here on the Buffalo Rumblings Network. As always, this episode of Three Man Rush presented by Picasso's Pizza. Treat yourself to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's, we are Buffalo Pizza, shipping local and nationwide. Order online at picassospizza.net. She is Sara Larson, coming from the great state, the great sunshine state of Florida. I am the big O Jerry Ostroski coming to you from Oklahoma, and this is the Three Man Rush. Sara, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I've been a little busy today, kind of getting a bunch of stuff done, but it feels good to actually, I got some stuff checked off my list today. It feels good. It feels good. How are
Definitely.
you doing?
I'm doing fine, doing fine. Just long day of work. Went and saw my mom a little while ago. Came home, relaxed a minute, and hopped on the pod. Getting ready to talk a little bit of Buffalo Bills. Talk a little bit about the
Nice.
combine, this upcoming in NASCAR racing. They call it the silly season, free agency when drivers are going all over the place, and obviously things getting a little bit silly in Buffalo with some of the comments we've heard coming out of the 716. We'll dive into that in a moment, but
Yeah, yeah.
we do have some news around the, not only the NFL but Buffalo as well.
Mostly, today was kind of an intriguing day for the Bills and everything. I if people haven't noticed, haven't seen, Ed Oliver posted to his IG story, um, "Pay me or I don't want to talk." Um, I think it's interesting. In my opinion, I've been saying it for months now. We're gonna trade him. If anything, that post probably just sign that ticket. Like, as long as we can find a trade, and maybe the compensation went down for the Bills, because the Bills are very, in my opinion, they want that the people that want to be there.
Right,
So you got, when you get too vocal like that, especially considering he hasn't really produced to that $10.5 million hit. So I would have thought that he would have kept his mouth and, shut for the time being, go
right,
out
right.
and perform on your fifth year option, and then say something.
Well,
But
don't kid yourself. Players also kind of get an inclination of what may be happening. Who knows behind the scenes what has happened? I think Ed knows he's on, as far as his
the trade
stay or
block.
his tenure in Buffalo, he's on thin ice. I don't think that that's any secret. I really don't. And I agree with you from, we've talked about this before. When you look at players you can afford to move and save a big amount of salary cap space, Ed Oliver's that guy. Like, I like Ed Oliver. I think he can be productive in certain situations. I think that he's a fast twitch guy, not terribly big, and we'll talk about some defensive tackles here in a little bit that we were at the combine. I do believe Buffalo needs to get bigger up the middle, especially if they decide to go ahead and get another middle linebacker. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, it's hard to eat that kind of money and get kind of just average production. You want
Right.
somebody in that spot making that kind of money that's going to produce. In a world where the cap dollar, even though you said earlier the cap went up for the Bills today by $2 million, there's still
A little
17
bit
plus
over that,
over.
yeah.
Yeah, there's still
Yeah,
17 million plus over, and you got to save that money.
our I mean, look, our new projected over per sport track is 17.741 million.
Mm,
So, but yeah, we got an additional 2 point something million this morning. So that our new salary cap is 227.7 million. But again, we're still extremely far over.
right,
So, there's only a couple days left before free agency. So we're gonna have to start, by Wednesday, at 4 p.m., when the league year officially starts. We have to be underneath the cap. So they definitely have to do some
right.
finagling over the next couple of days, and we'll see some restructures and some, hopefully, some trades, and some contract extensions maybe, or we'll see, or
Let
some
me ask you
cuts.
this: other than the obvious, which is a Josh Allen rework, a Deion Dawkins rework, some of those things that'll free up a good amount of money. who do you think? And we just talked about it, at Oliver possibly moving him in a trade. Who do you think are your top 2 to 3 vet candidates that possibly may be released next week to get under that $17 million mark?
Uh, I mean, I would be nervous, but Hines could be on there. He's I think 6 million against the cap.
Right.
Um, I McKenzie, we would save like 2 million against the cap. Morse, I think, is another six
Morse is the
million.
one that I think is susceptible as much as Ed Oliver is. I think
Yeah.
Mitch Morse saves what, $11 million, I believe.
No, I think I think the savings is 8, 6 or
Okay.
8, I
Okay.
think. Because we still owe him money, so like that would be what we're saving, even though his cap hit is I think 11.
Right.
So, well, we'll see how that works, but obviously there's a lot to go on. I think that we would probably wait until the draft before we decide on Morse, because you want to make sure that we have someone that could replace him
Right.
at center. I know, obviously, I know that like Bates could play the center, but I believe he's better at left guard. So we'll see how that works out. Uh,
I think that one of the things I enjoy right now about the Bills front office, okay, and we'll get into a second, as far as players that are chirping a little bit more than I care to hear, but I think that Bean has actually done a really good job of saying much of nothing. He's played everything very close to the vest. He hasn't said much of anything. He's keeping his mouth shut. I know that he has a plan. We know that he has something there, but I think that his ability to not get caught up in this verbal warfare is commendable, and I like it.
yeah.
What's the
Daryl put the math needs to start mathing soon. And it is so true.
what's the famous line? Real G's move in silence, and I think that my man Brandon Bean is moving in silence right now, and I like it.
He always does. That's the one thing. As much as I compliment the front office. I will say that Bean and McDermott both only give you what they're required to give you, like the
Right,
little tidbit. Like they will
right,
not over analyze, comment anything. And
right,
sometimes as a fan, it is so frustrating to hear their press conferences and everything else.
right.
So it gets so annoying. But yeah, so we were talking about some of those comments other than Ed Oliver. Um, everyone's been talking about Stefan Diggs, and there was a couple comments he's made, a couple things, first and foremost, I am going to say Stefan Diggs is not going to get traded. People need to understand he is a
Right,
$45 million dead cap
right.
hit if we were to trade him. $45 million. It's not going to happen. It is not. Do you like no one's going to give us the draft capital to do
No,
that. Like to offset that. That is not never going to happen. But anyways, I digress. So today he had said on he had a couple he's been very vocal, obviously. He's had a couple of shows. He said the Vikes sent him to the Bills in order for things to not go good. So he kind of, proved, I guess, the Vikings wrong, but he didn't have too good words for them. But he also said the Bills' struggles don't make any sense. He's like we have the personnel and everything else, but the one thing that everyone got intrigued about today is there was another post today of one of his conversations about him playing against his brother this year. He was like, yeah, well, that's what the schedule says at this point. So everyone's assuming that, oh, he's going to Dallas, so he's not going to be in Buffalo. If anything, it's the other way around, people. If
right.
anything.
And here's the comments he made on the show, The Shop, which I believe is a show on HBO. The comment reads, "It doesn't make sense. I'll rack my brain with this S word or this, I'll just say crap at this point. I think it's more execution than anything. Crap is small little pieces on why it's not going right. We've got the players, we've got the plays. Why crap ain't coming together? That's where you draw some of those questions. I never want to question who I am. I never want to question how I am. I'm giving this crap everything I've got. I'm dying on the hill for that. And what I thought was interesting was they asked Micah Hyde about this on Good Morning Football,
Mhm.
about those
Yep.
comments. And Micah says this. He says, as a locker room and as an organization, we understand Diggs. We know the type of person he is. Nobody's panicking. Nobody's worried about that.
Yeah. And basically they would be concerned if he wasn't the way if he didn't react the way he has. So, and they joked about it at the end of that show about we want to hear about, Josh and him playing video games again, and everyone's coming together and singing, songs of merriment. But people get ticked off. That doesn't mean that they don't love each other anymore as brothers and
Right.
whatnot.
But I'm going to give you an example, okay? There's a team that just won another Super Bowl, right? You don't hear any of this coming out of that camp. There's a team in Philadelphia that went to the Super Bowl this year. A.J. Brown, their star receiver, made the comment, if they don't pay Jalen Hurts, then you need to find somewhere for me to go. Because if he's not here, I don't want to be here. And those are the types of things I want to hear out of my star players about their teammates. I understand Diggs. I get what I get it. I get what he does. This is him, okay? And I'm not telling him to be anybody else, but honestly, it gets old. It really does. It gets old, and you get sick of hearing it. And it's one thing to challenge teammates behind the scenes, okay? Thurman challenged us daily. Bruce challenges daily. Kent Hull challenges. Jim Kelly challenges. All those guys challenge us in the locker room. When anything came out of the locker room and there was any sort of public, somebody publicly wanted a player. If you remember, I believe it was 87 or whenever they had it wasn't 87. It was the Bickering Bill season when they had the famous thing where Thurman and Jim had made a comment about Howard Ballard, the or the right tackle, and Thurman came to his defense. That's what I like. That's what I like. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to. I don't want to continually see people going at my teammates and things of that nature. So
And
we'll
I
see.
agree, but realistically, do you feel like you've heard Diggs really take a dig at the team, like specific people on the team? Because I haven't.
Well,
It's all been
I haven't heard exactly what he said, but if you don't think he was railing on Josh Allen in the games as the year went
maybe
on,
maybe in the game, but you just said publicly. I haven't heard him go
well, that to
out
me
and
is
say,
public. Showing
"Oh, I mean,
outward negative emotion towards a player on the field and on national television
I
to me
mean,
is
you
public.
have you have Tom Brady throwing computers and stuff, and people laughed it off." So
Tom Brady
I
won 7.
Yeah, I get it, but I just feel like they're targeting Steph for no reason. I think that it's stupid. So I do. I think that he's a passionate guy. I don't feel like I've heard anything come out of his mouth publicly that is negative toward a specific player. Yes,
Right,
he's made comments about the team, but he's including himself in that team. Like something's wrong with the team coming together and
right.
figuring out why we can't win these games. But I don't feel like he's been like Josh Allen's trash or anything like that. Like he's never really come out and said, I'm disappointed in my quarterback like I guess I don't get the total frustration with that. The sideline stuff is a whole nother thing. I feel like people get angry all the time on the sidelines, and they have those conversations. You don't know what's being said. You just know that there's frustrations boiling out. But I guess I'm just trying to defend Diggs in a way that
Right.
like I feel like social media is completely taking over the situation and turning into something that it's not.
Well, we had this conversation, Sarah, yesterday. I had this conversation on local sports radio. We talked about this monster of content creation, and we're in the middle of it, right? Um, things are said, things are done, and it just is it's run with. As much as we talk about these deals, I agree with you 100%. Stephon Diggs is a bill this year, and you know what? He's probably a bill the year after that. He is in Buffalo for the next couple of years. They're not moving him. If they want to help Stephon Diggs, what they probably should do is find some slot receivers and some other targets that'll pull some heat off of them. That'll help Stephon Diggs more than anything. But no, I mean they're not moving him, but there are targets on this team, and there are really really good players that are going to get moved.
So let's talk about that for a second. What are your feelings about the D Hop uh, tweet where he said he's willing to negotiate his last 2 years if he is traded, and today he was working out with Vaughn.
I would love D Hop, and he's one of my favorite receivers. I would love him in Buffalo. I
Yeah,
think he would be a
I was
tremendous
against
compliment.
it.
And I
Yeah,
think
I
he'd be
was
a great
against it.
compliment to Diggs.
Yeah, I was against it because of his contract. But if he's
Right.
willing to rework that
Right.
contract, I am all for it if we can
But
make it work.
Sarah, that's an unwritten thing. I mean, we're the Bills are in the land of quarterback jail with the cap. So it's that. Anybody that's coming. But that to me what you said makes is the key to this whole thing. We talked about it before. What is the key to these teams? The great quarterback, the good draft, and what? Convincing the veteran players to come play for less money because you have two things. You have a wonderful culture and you have a chance to win it all.
Right.
And that's where I get a little that's why I get a little bit I have a little bit of a problem with some of the outward stuff as far as Diggs and stuff. I don't want that culture to be messed with because I feel like that's the one thing Buffalo's done a really good job with. And I hope they don't lose it with with Mrs. Pagula not being a part of it anymore. I thought she did a wonderful job cultivating that culture with that team, and I hope it stays there. But you're right. I mean, if you can convince a guy like Hopkins to come, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Daryl put I wouldn't mind D Hop and 2 draft picks still. I agree. If we had D Hop, I don't know if I necessarily think we need 2 wide receiver draft picks, but
Right.
definitely a slot guy if to compete with Shakir and well I again I'm that one person that everyone's talking, draft, and I get so frustrated with it because you never know what you're going to draft until free
Right.
agency is over with.
I want us to get receiver wise. I'd like us to find the next Juju Schuster. Those type. I want to get a couple of vets in to help take some pressure. We have some good young receivers. We have some guys that need to go. But if we get some productive vets to come in and especially run that slot position, I think it would help greatly.
Yeah, I was joking earlier. I was texting. I was like, if Vaughn's in on all of these, on being this recruiter that he is, then
Hey,
we're gonna have D Hop, OBJ, and Derrick Henry on our team by the end of next week. So
I'd like them to go. I'd like them to go hang out with Orlando Brown Jr. and
yeah,
Dalton
we
Reisner.
can't afford
If you could
that.
go hang
That's
out with those two, I would appreciate that, Vaughn. If you could do that, please.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the Chiefs are going to figure it out with Orlando somehow or another. But they're expecting him anywhere between probably 17 and 20 million
Yeah,
ish, I would think.
yeah, and
So
I think they're willing to pay him about 15. I know they want to go under market value with him. He didn't have the greatest of years, but he's still a really, really good player.
yeah.
And I'm not sure he's a guy that can move inside. A lot of times you can get some of those older tackles and move them inside and get 3 or 4 good productive years out of them at guard. I
Well,
just
we'll
don't
be
know if he's that
handicapped.
guy.
We'll be handicapped with that. Our all of our tackles are like 6'7", 6'8". I
Right,
don't think that
right,
they fit well inside.
exactly.
All All right. Well, let's look at some of the defense that was at the combine. Um, I will admit I did a little bit different. I'm not going to argue with people if I have somebody listed as a corner and they're a nickel, or if I have them listed as a safety and they're a nickel as well. It is all over the place at this point. I did my very best because they are listed differently in every situation that you can research. Same thing with edge rushers and defensive ends and linebackers. They're all over the place. So that is my little disclaimer, considering I got called out the other day. Um, but defensive backs. So basically we're looking at maybe needing to add a corner, especially with I'm looking isn't Dane, yeah, I thought so. Dane's a free agent. So we might need to add, another corner, and then I we're gonna need to add a safety. Even if we move Benford to safety, I am not comfortable going into the season with just Micah Hyde and Benford. So we definitely need to look there. We have no clue if Hamlin's going to come back. And what that situation will be. So I kind of put down, how some of these defensive backs did. Intriguing. You have Deontay Banks from Maryland. He ran a 4.35, which is like crazy. Um, Tyreek Stevenson. I'm going to mention him again because he's a UM guy. He played corner in college, but I do think he will be probably more either a nickel or a safety in the NFL. He still had a pretty decent 40 time. The one thing is he's also really good on special teams. So look at we can also look at him. Um, my three, well, I should say four favorite safeties have been Sidney Brown, Jamie Robinson, Jordan Battle, and Christopher Smith. Um, but then DJ Turner, and I didn't update. I just see I didn't update. He ran a crazy 40, and he didn't do any of the
He ran a 4.26.
yeah, and
And the thing
he
and
didn't
the
do
thing
any of the drills or anything yet, so he's waiting for his pro day to do that. But he will be in probably in the nickel spot in the NFL. So Jacorian Bennett, he's also a nickel. He ran a 4.3, but all of his testing was ridiculous. Like I didn't even he wasn't even on my like radar. I've seen him play obviously because he's ACC, but I wasn't really on my radar. He made a couple of comments about Diggs and stuff. So I paid attention a little bit more, but his combine has definitely put him in my sights too. But again, more of a nickel corner.
six of the top 10 40 times this year at the combine were run by cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Absolutely tremendous athletic group of players. If you look at the cornerback group, tons of high grades as far as the participants in the combine. Brian Branch from Alabama leads the way. He gets a grade of 6.72, which is like potential Pro Bowl player. Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, 6.70. Joey Porter Jr., who I really like from Penn State. I like the way he challenges people. He has a little bit of edge to him, like his father did. And if you remember Joey Porter Sr., that played at Pittsburgh, I like him. I like DJ Turner as well. There are some guys at the top of that cornerback class that, if somehow, some way they fall to 27, you have to take a look at them, especially if you are comfortable, like you said, with moving Bedford to safety. But when you look at the safety group just does not jump off the screen at you, right? The safety group, the highest ranked player at safety is Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M with a 6.39 grade. And just to give people an example, these grades that they get, this prospect grade, it's been going on for years from the NFL, and it kind of gives you what people believe after looking at all the data where they might end up eventually in the league. And what the 6.39 grade is will eventually be a plus starter, which means maybe not a Pro Bowl player, maybe so, but a guy that will be definitely a good player in the NFL. But 6'2", 198, really good prospect there. He's the highest rated safety out of A&M. But here's the thing that I want to ask you about. With the way the Bills are constructed right now in the back end on the defense, right, with their corner, they seem to have, unless Hyde moves, and you've talked about this, unless Hyde moves, now all of a sudden you're having to try to find another cornerback to jump in there, or like to be the third guy or fourth guy. Do you think this is a situation where you try to find maybe a bigger, more physical corner that he could be a hybrid? He could play safety or he could play corner and go back and forth, because to just think you're going to go out and draft a safety in the first 3 rounds, I mean, a lot of these grades, that safety class is a little bit weak. You feel you get better value at other positions. So do you do that with the corners, or do you go ahead and say, we're just going to try to figure out a way to get some vets to come in if if Poyer ends up not coming back to the team?
Well, pretty much I have a feeling Poyer's not coming back, but I think that Benford is kind of that guy. He's the guy that can play both corner and safety. He was doing just fine starting for us, for the first couple of weeks. Um, it's probably not exactly what we wanted, but I think he'll be our depth guy. And I still think we're going to have White and Elam as our starting. And then I mean, again, we're losing Jaquan Johnson, Cam Lewis, Dean Marlowe, Jordan, Poyer. So we definitely need help more so, in my opinion, at safety than
But
we do.
think about this though, why are we so dead set? I mean, is it the fact that Poyer's feelings are hurt that badly that he doesn't want to come back? Or why are we dead set that somebody's going to give him that big of a contract to go elsewhere? I'm not sold that he does not come back. And
Oh, I'm not sold. I'm not 100% sold. But my thing is that there's a couple of states out there that obviously don't have the state income tax that can offer him, you know, a million, 2 million less than we were willing to, and or probably about a million, and it's gonna offset. So there are things that I think they're kind of looking at, and his wife is probably communicating some of this to him as well. That she would prefer not spending some most of the year, well, I should say, 4 months, 5 months of the year up in Buffalo. But we'll see. I don't believe he's asking for what people think he's asking for. I don't think he's asking 13, 14 million. People are assuming. I think it's more that he wants to have something guaranteed for at least another 2 years so he can retire. uh, you know he would probably like to retire a Buffalo Bill, I believe. But so some kind of guarantee that he's set for the next 2 years. So, I think if we offered him a 3-year contract with, pretty much 2 of those years guaranteed, that he would sign without a problem. You know, it just depends on where he's gonna land in that dollar amount. But when you think 10 to 10, 11, 12 million, which is where I think he should be at. He probably thinks more, but you can go and get another guy for 6, 7, 8. He's not going to be Jordan Poyer. No one's going to be Jordan Poyer, but it's still going to get the job done. And maybe we can have it be a longer contract because he's younger. And if that's the case, then you can spread out that cost.
No, I agree. I just, I'm not, obviously there's some on rumblings that have a little bit more of an intimate feeling of what he may and may not want to do. But I'm just not sold that everybody's pretty much dead set on he's gone and he's going to get the money he wants elsewhere. I'm not so sold on that. I do think there's a chance he comes back to Buffalo, and I think that I would, if he needs 2 years of guaranteed contract, okay, well, if we'll give you guaranteed, but maybe that goes ahead and drops the dollar value as well. But again, Bean's keeping things close to the vest, not saying much about it.
Right.
I know
And
there's some
Daryl
good players out there.
Daryl
There's
put,
some.
do we know that the Bills want to keep him though? And that's the thing is, in my opinion, we haven't even heard of an offer. And Jordan was very vocal saying that there hasn't been one. So that makes me more to the leaning towards the fact that maybe the Bills don't want him back, or
I
they don't.
personally, and I've been a player, I can see it on both sides. And while it drives you crazy as a player, this is the same thing as the Lamar Jackson situation. This is called business. This is the way negotiations work. This is, you know what? If you think you can, he Brandon Bean wants the NFL to set the market for Jordan Poyer, is what he wants to do. I really believe that. If somebody wants to pay him 12 million, someone wants to pay him 11, even 10, then put it out there. Put it out there, because that maybe that goes ahead and takes us out of the sweepstakes, right? But if nobody wants to pay that kind of money, and now all of a sudden we're talking about 8 and 9, now all of a sudden we can talk. But if, it's the same thing with Lamar. Everybody's like, well, everybody's doing Lamar. They're doing Lamar wrong. Well, how are they doing him wrong? You don't know what they offered him. They might have offered him $250 million. Maybe all of it's not guaranteed, but he still offered him $250 million. And if you think you can get that, then we gave you the non-exclusive tag. Go out there and find a team that's going to give it to you. And so far, we've had 5 of them step up and say, we're out of it. Well, I don't believe any of them. Atlanta could be right back in it day one, right? I mean, who are they going to do? They're not going to tell everybody what they're going to do. But this is it. It's the part of this whole. It's the part of the game that sucks.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
you
I
got
think that
players, you got feelings, you got fans, you got all this stuff, and
right.
it's hard, but it's business, and this is what these teams need to do.
And regarding Lamar, I haven't really said much about that whole situation, but I will. I did post a couple of things. There are a lot of factors. Number one, two first round picks is not that big of a deal for Lamar, not at all. But when you're talking about a fully guaranteed contract, which he has pretty much said, I'm not signing with Baltimore.
Right.
Again, we're speculating, but unless he gets that fully guaranteed contract. So I think Baltimore is extremely smart in what they did, because now they're basically saying, okay, other teams, you don't have an agent. Other teams can come forward, present to you what they think that you're
Yes.
worth. And if someone offers you a fully guaranteed contract, great, we get 2 first round draft picks, because we're not willing to give you
Yep.
that, those that fully guaranteed contract. If no one comes forward, they got him for $32 million this year.
Right.
Do I think there's going to be, all it takes is one? Do I think one team will come forward? Yes, but it puts them in a big huge bind. And I think it was Ian Rappaport that reported on it today. Um, they basically have 5 days. They have to wait till Wednesday to offer him, and then they have 5 days to review the offer, to match, and decide if they want to move forward. Well, that
Right.
handicaps the team that offered. They're basically locked in with that money until those until
Right.
Baltimore decides. So
And you're
Baltimore
doing
could take
what?
yeah,
You're doing all
Baltimore
the
can
work for
take
Baltimore.
Yep, Baltimore can take it down to the very last moment, and
Right.
free agency period is pretty much everyone that is available is kind of come and gone at that point. So I think what Baltimore is doing is brilliant from a business standpoint. Does it suck for Lamar? 100%, a
It
hundred
does.
percent.
It
But
does. Go ahead. I'm
that's
sorry.
why I think. No, I was just gonna say that's why I think you know, I I really think he needs an agent. It is a lot easier to talk to an agent and
Yeah.
say all the negatives. Hey, we think he's worth $45 million a year. We're willing to pay him more than Daniel Jones, of course. But I'm not going to guarantee a 5-year, $50 million contract, because not only does that money has to come up front, they have to put that money in escrow. So then
Right.
they're putting $250 million in escrow. This guy hasn't completed a season the last 2 years. And again, we all love Lamar. We all know how great of an athlete he is. But saying that directly to his face over and over and over again it could cause strife between you and your player.
Right.
It's not the same when you're saying it to an agent.
Right.
So I think he needs an
Without an
agent.
agent, an agent takes the emotion out of things,
Yeah,
right? You totally takes emotion out of it. And the other thing is this, and you brought up Daniel Jones, for people that are trying to say that the Ravens have completely disgraced Lamar because look what the Giants, Daniel Jones got his contract. Folks, yeah, he signed for 160 million, but in the grand scheme of things, the quarterbacks, he basically got the same deal as Dak Prescott. Okay?
he's 2 years guaranteed, so
Right.
it's more than two.
When this is all done, right? When everything's done and Lamar gets his money and whoever, where's he going to end up? Daniel Jones's contract's going to be middle of the road, just where it should be. But the position dictates this money right now, and it's just the narrative is just so backwards. I mean, to get on the Baltimore Ravens for not giving Lamar Jackson a 100% guaranteed contract when they don't have to is just silly.
Yeah, and John just put
Absolutely silly.
isn't his mother his agent?
Yes,
His mother and him, yeah,
which
they kind
means
of go
he's his
into
own
this.
agent, right?
Well, and he might be better at it than his mom because his mom probably has more emotion than he
Right,
does. I know I would
right,
fight tooth and nail for my child.
right,
So,
right,
it probably makes it even more difficult. And then,
right,
she probably doesn't want to hear any of the negatives, at
right.
all, So,
And I
um,
think, and then going back to where we started, and this is kind of how I feel about the Poyer situation. There's a lot of people that have gotten their feelings hurt because of what's going on, but this is the world that you live in negotiations, and honestly, there is no time. The teams that get in trouble are the ones that make the emotional signings and make the emotional decisions based on what the fans want or those types of things. They don't make what's the
yeah.
solid decision based on the salary cap and what's best for the future of the football team.
I saw Drew Rosenhaus at the Senior Bowl, and I I joked. I was like, I'm gonna go up to him and be like, "So, dude, what's going on with Poyer?"
But here's the thing, though, Sarah. It's like take the Arizona Cardinals, right? They sign players like they believe they sign players because it's like they want to put fans in the seats. They don't care about their wins and losses. They care about star power of a player. And if we get this guy signed, I'll sign more jerseys. We'll sell more jerseys. We'll get more seats, people in the seats, and we'll make more money that way. When the Patriots and other teams like that, and I'm hoping and the Baltimore Ravens are one of them. I'm hoping the Bills are in that same boat. We're making decisions based on championships and where we want to end up.
Roy just put, "If I'm Baltimore, I'm hoping somebody's willing to give up 2 first-round picks from Lamar and draft another quarterback." I don't think that that's where they're at. I actually think Baltimore is ready to match as long as
Right,
someone does not offer a guaranteed contract. I
right,
think that they are willing to pay probably, 45 to 50 million dollars. I don't think that they have a problem with that because that's kind of where the market's going.
right,
I really don't think that they have a problem with that on average. But I think they want to only guarantee probably 2 or 3 years, especially because of he's injury prone, which he's shown the last couple of years. And this is not, I'm not trying to diss Lamar, but he is a running quarterback. The shelf life tends to go down.
right.
So, with that, and yes, he can still pass the ball, like normal quarterbacks. He's very good at it, but is he an elite passer? I would not consider him an
No,
elite passer.
no.
So, once his running game starts to decline, then you have to kind of figure out, well, is he still worth it? So I think that they only want to guarantee probably 2 or 3 years, maybe 2.5 years, um, and see, or maybe they only want a 4-year contract instead of a five. Like, so I can see where there's going to be some conversation there. But I do think that Baltimore is willing to match. I just think that it's going to be as long as it's not a fully guaranteed contract.
Well, we got about 20 minutes left in the show, and
Yep. Let's
smash the
go to the
like
next one.
button, hit the subscribe button. Three man rush. Pretty soon we'll be rebranding to line to gain. We'll get to that soon. But let's move to the big nasties, the defensive tackles. This to me is an area that I think the Bills really need to get better at, and they need to get bigger at. And who are some of the top prospects out of the combine, sir?
Yeah, well, Jalen Carter, he didn't participate in everything. So we'll see what happens with his stock as we get closer into draft day. But Kalijah Cansey had a pretty decent. He was pretty decent with all the drills and everything. A lot of people are comparing him to Aaron Darnold or Donald. I it's more because of his size and than anything. Um, but it's hard to compare someone to Aaron Donald. I mean, out of college, but that's kind of where the comparisons are going. To me, Brian Brees is he's the one that kind of stands out the most to me. He's a little slower, but got good size. And I've liked to see him. My only concern with him was his bench press. I
Right.
figured a guy that big would be benching a lot more than 22. You had some wide receivers benching 22, so that concerned me a little bit. Mozzie Smith was the intrigue. Everyone would say, he did 34 reps. So that was nice for him, but his arm length they said is really really short for for a defensive tackle. So I'm sure you have more more people on your list, but
I think obviously a lot of these guys can play well. I like the breezy kid from Clemson. I'm not hung up on his bench press at 22 reps. I like him because he's a character guy. If you read his story, he reminds me a lot of who's our big guy we lost to Minnesota a few years ago from Stanford.
Phillips.
Yes, no, not Phil. Is it Phil Harrison Phillips? Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Harrison Phillips. I think he's better than Harrison Phillips, but he had a sister that had cancer and passed away. He's a quality dude. Played for a tremendous program down at Clemson, and pronounced Bruzzy is how you pronounce it, Bruzzy. And I like the guy. I think he's a good player. Obviously, the Jalen Carter situation is ongoing and something to definitely watch for. Is he? If they don't clear this up by the combine, okay, is this a situation? You know where I'm thinking, right?
Yeah,
Is this a situation he tumbles
it
and if
could.
he ends up in 27?
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't think
they
there's
were
any
misdemeanor
way.
they were misdemeanor
You know,
charges. I don't
right? I don't
I
think there's
mean,
any way it'll
everyone's
happen.
yeah, everyone's still projecting him to go in the first round. There were two misdemeanor charges. So, I don't think it's going to affect his stock too much other than people might be like, well, I don't know. I don't think the misdemeanors carry any like jail time or anything like that, but it's whether or not they um are afraid of future problems because anything that happened in college the NFL can't suspend you for or anything like that. So I don't think they're worried about that. It's more like, is there going to be a character issue down the road? Um, I do want to say, and I can never say his name. The guy out of Northwestern.
Hmm.
I just call him Ade because it's that both of his first names and last name. He ran a 4.49 in the 40 and people legit thought that there had to be something wrong. They went back and they kept on, running simulcasts and stuff like that. He ran a 4.49 and his the 10-second split was 1.61, which is really really good. That means that his break, is really quick. So he's interesting. He little smaller, which gets me a little nervous with when you have some of the bigger guards, but he did bench 27, which is nicer than some of these other ones. So he's intriguing because and I do think we need to worry about it, especially if we're gonna lose Oliver. Um, I think we're gonna need an additional defensive tackle. So we probably will be drafting a guy if we don't get somebody in free agency.
Here's a guy that I like, whether it be the second round or third round. Um, and I think he's a guy, and this is the type of player, as far as body wise, that I want to see us get inside. And and I'm going to probably butcher his name, but it's Siaki Ika from Baylor. Okay, 6'3", 335 pounds. Uh, Big. I don't know if anybody's watched them this year. Huge man. Huge man. Ran a 40 in only 5.39 seconds. I could care less. This is a guy that's eating blocks inside. He's grabbing guards. He's grabbing centers. He is a true gap control guy on the inside. Those are the types of dudes I want to see. I mean, yeah, I'd like to see us get some guys his size that are maybe stupid athletic. Well, that dude's named Jalen Carter, right? And they don't get the 27 or the second round. But again, like the offensive line, there's some quality dudes that are going to fall into the early second day that we can get a hold of, and this is one of those type of guys. I just right now, especially with what we got going on our defensive line, we have got to get bigger. I mean, I don't know. I know I've
Yeah.
said it a million times, and I'm going to keep saying it until I see it. We've got to get bigger in the one technique and the three technique.
Yeah,
We need to get bigger.
I prefer that we do bring back Jordan Phillips. I hope we can figure that contract out,
Right.
and bring him back, on another 1 year deal, if anything. I actually think that we're a little bit more in need. Obviously, if we get rid of Oliver, we need a defensive tackle.
Right.
But I actually think that we need to worry about defensive end in the edge a little bit more because Vaughn's not going to be back. As much as he says he's going to be back for the beginning of the season, there is a good chance that he is not back to Thanksgiving, just like
Right.
Trey White was.
But another
So
good point of what you make is about the Phillips situation. It's going to help the Bills him having the injury and needing the surgery. It's going to help the Bills if they want to keep him and get him back in the fold. There's a chance they keep him because he gets hurt. Nobody's going to spend that money. Roy talks about it. Off injured Jordan. I get it. I'm willing to try to pay him to come back, not overpay. But I think that injury situation will help us in that re-signing.
yeah. And I think it'll be a 1 year, prove deal. And he's,
Right.
getting a little bit up there in age. I mean, we do have Settle and Daquan Jones coming back. Um, but I don't know if I want them to be our two starting defensive tackles at this point. Like
No.
Daquan Jones, yes, but Settle hasn't proven to me that he can start right now. And and I'm saying again, if Oliver's gone.
Right. It'd be really good for us, I think, if we had a quality rookie, and we can also, if it's not Jordan Phillips, there are some other defensive linemen out there in the NFL that we can pick up. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe this is a situation for Brandon Bean. Maybe this is what he's doing. Maybe he wants to go ahead and he wants to go ahead and get some veterans in the mix and bring some guys around. So I can't wait for this whole thing to start because again, he hasn't tipped his hand once. And I'm I have a feeling that we could be shocked in another 7 to 10 days.
Yeah. All right. So again, I have defensive end, edge, and linebackers on a different slide. So some of these guys are, yes, edge slash linebackers. Some of them worked out with the defensive end people. Some of them worked out with the linebackers. Um, but it is what it is. So deal with it, people.
No, and
uh,
whoever's complained about it, they can go pound sand
I'm
because
just joking. I'm
yeah, I
just
mean
joking.
it's the deal is that there's so many hybrid players anymore on that side
Yes.
of the ball. It's
Yes.
hard to stick them in a category.
So pretty much, Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, Lucas Van Ness, and Nolan Smith. Those are the ones that, are on everyone's, list that will probably come off, first round. Maybe, maybe one slips into the second. I doubt it. Um, Miles Murphy is intriguing, I would think, from out of Clemson. Um, Keon White is someone that is kind of more intriguing to me. Is more of and again, just I watched his bench press, and again, it doesn't translate. Obviously, I've seen him play. Georgia Tech plays Miami every year, so he definitely intrigues me. But he does remind me a little bit of Edmonds. So like size wise, but he plays defensive end or edge. And actually, he kind of is like where Rousseau is with the weight and height and everything. So
One thing about the bench press, and I'm going to tell on myself. I mean, I think I only did about 20 reps at the combine when I was there, and you would think that an interior offensive line would do more than 20 or would do more than 20 reps. While I was in Buffalo, without trying to pat myself on the back or gloss myself, I did 535 on the bench when I was there. It's a situation where sometimes arm length and those types of things hinder a 225-pound bench press. Yes, it's cool to see the dudes rep out a lot. I'm not as bummed out. Hey, you can always get stronger. Okay, you can't get faster. You can't get more athletic usually, but you can always get stronger. So that's one thing that if I'm going to fudge a number, that'll be the one that I fudge.
right. So Keon Brown to me, or Keon White to me, is an intriguing prospect later on in the draft. So we can definitely probably like later on, probably fourth or fifth round. even maybe even 6, depending on how things fall. He's projected all over the board, so we'll see how that shapes up. But then last but not least, let me move this over. Sorry, guys.
The lovely linebacker position.
The lovely linebacker position. And again, some of the previous people are listed as linebackers as well, but these are pretty much your set linebackers. I've Trenton Simpson and Owen Pepoe. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Pepo,
I think
but
it's great. You did wonderful.
uh, both of them are definitely I've seen Trenton Simpson play. I definitely like his the way he plays. He destroyed Miami several times. So it's kind of my yardstick to measure him up.
Right.
He would be intriguing to me, and I think a lot of these linebackers will be more mid to late rounds. I think that Henley and Campbell will probably be your two sooner linebackers off the board. Maybe second, third round. But I don't think that there is a lot of true linebackers coming off the board early. You have a lot of the edge rushers coming off the board early. So it'll be, in my opinion, I would like to see us again, especially if we don't re-sign Edmonds, we're going to need to get a linebacker. Um, so it'll be these are some names to look out for.
I like Jack Campbell quite a bit. If you look at his body structure, he's built for that. He's built for the defense that we run in Buffalo. He's a long guy. He's a length guy. He can play Tampa too. He can get out into the flat, knock a drag route coming across the middle, and then also fill. His individual grade is not as high as some of the others. His prospect grade is 6.18, which is will develop into a starter eventually or a potential starter. But I mean, some guys are football players, and this is one of those guys to me. Incredibly smart. He won the academic Heisman Award. I like him. I like that guy to come in and possibly maybe fill a role if we don't have Edmonds or we need a backup.
Yeah. Um, to me, Simpson, they a lot of people think he could be a starter, a rookie starter. So, if anything, and we do lose Edmonds, I would love to shoot for him. He's just all over the field all the time. I think Daryl just put that too. So, what intrigued me at the combine is he was pretty fast, but like it kind of translated. So when you got to see him like do the drills, there's a couple of people like I was talking about DJ earlier, cornerback. He was a 4.26, but in the drills he didn't quite look
Right.
that fast. Simpson looks the part. He looks that fast. So um he's kind of my linebacker crush if we decide to not sign Edmonds back. If we sign Edmonds back, then I don't feel like we really need to go linebacker. Um because we probably should see where Terrell Bernard is gonna be on this team we're like we need to actually they were talking about how they feel like he can be a starter. Well, why didn't you play him at all last year if he could be a
Right.
starter? So we'll see how that happens. I don't think Henley or Campbell are attainable um unless they fall and we decide to go first or second round linebacker, which we might if we don't have Edmonds. And all of us that keep on clamoring for someone on the offense is going to have to suck it up and accept it.
Well, we'll be, I think that if I saw today correctly, Sarah, I don't think we get any compensatory picks
Nope, none.
as of yet. We get none. So I don't think that number even has a chance to change. So we
Nope.
won't get any of those.
If it changes,
Um,
if we lose people this year, it will get compensatory picks next year, not this year.
I'm not against. I really believe this. I'm not against with the way the depth is at offensive and defensive line, and the guys that are all kind of the same. They're all bunched up. If we really don't have a solid 27th pick, like a definite consensus in the war room, I'm fully this season for trading out of the first round and stockpiling high second round picks and higher third round picks to get more of those quality individuals and also get away from those bigger rookie contracts of the first round. And that'll also help us with the salary cap. So I'm all about trading out this year. If that guy, like if that, I don't know who it is. I don't know what Brandon Beane's looking for. But if we don't have that person there, let's get some more picks and stockpile some
Yeah,
talent.
I'm usually like that, but I feel like we have we need a hit on our picks, and I feel like when you start,
Right. But who
when you
is it?
start,
Who's your hit?
well, when you start drafting down and to get additional picks, I laughed because I called somebody out on Twitter yesterday, I think it was. I'm like, well, your 37 picks, they're not, I was being facetious, are not going to make the team. So what's the point of all those trades that you're doing to get additional draft picks? I don't mind if you're getting a couple of extra second, third, fourth round, but your sixth and seventh round, you have no idea if you're gonna get that hit. And Darrell actually just made a really good point. He said, and if you don't go with the first round, you miss on that fifth year option. So
Right.
yeah,
And we're
it
getting ready to
becomes
move the fifth year option. I mean, if the guy can't play, who cares anyway?
yeah, but we use Josh's fifth year option. We use Edmund's fifth year option.
But Josh can play. Edmonds can play a little bit. We're going to trade. We're talking about trading um, uh,
Oliver.
Oliver. I mean, I don't think the fifth year. I don't think the fifth year is always is a dead set. You're going to give him a fifth year either. I mean, it's an inexact science. I just think we have so many holes that people just keep. This isn't a one or two person puts us over the top.
Yeah.
We have a lot of holes that need to be fixed, and
Come back to me after
you
free
know,
agency, and then I'll let you know
right.
if I feel comfortable trading down for more
Right,
picks.
right, and I do think we'll make some moves with some vets. I do. I hope that Buffalo's always, and I know folks don't take this the wrong way. I love the place. If I didn't live in Tulsa, that's probably where I'd live. But for some folks, and it's Buffalo's a hard sell. I mean, for a veteran that especially a veteran, maybe if he's been on a team that's rolled into Buffalo in December, and they're remembering that, right? So it's always going to be a hard sell. But if you can get some of those key vets in, that'll take the pressure off, and you can do some things in the draft. So I think you're right. We see what happens in free agency. We see who gets retained, who's coming back, who's not coming back, and then go from there.
All right. Well, you have a couple people agreeing with you on Jack Campbell in the comments.
And they
So
also, like John Herring says in the comments, we only have 6 picks this year. So if we go ahead and if we do move out of the first to pick up some more, I'm a big believer in the high second round, high third round area that you can get some guys that fell through the cracks. And but again, if that star's there at 27, take them.
yeah,
If
I mean,
Bijan Robertson's sitting there at 27,
yeah. I mean, if I have some crushes. We'll see. Again, it all depends on what we do in free agency. So, I mean, if the sky fell tomorrow and for some reason we're blessed with the ability to get, Hopkins and OBJ and
right,
Derrick Henry all on the team, then I could, say you better draft first, second, third round offensive line.
right, 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 exactly. Well,
But
it's exciting. There's a lot coming up this off season. Sarah, again, tell our listeners when the tampering dates happen and when free agency opens.
yeah. So legal tampering starts on Monday through the 15th. And then at 4 p.m. on the 15th, that's when the official NFL season begins, as everybody's salary cap has to be under. So you'll see a lot of movement this week, but no one can officially sign, even though they're allowed to talk to teams. No one can officially start signing the free agents until the 15th. All of the people who are, I think there's 6 people that have been franchised, um, that the ones that can actually start, that are non-exclusive, can't talk until Wednesday.
Smash the like button, hit that subscribe button. This is the three-man rush. She's Sara Larson. I'm the big O. Jerry Ostrowski. You're listening to us on the Buffalo Rumblings Network. We will be back next week on Thursday, the same time, to talk about that free agency period that's getting ready to
Yes.
open, or it has opened. That's the beauty of it. The day we come on, it'll open up that Thursday at 4 o'clock. So we'll talk a little
No,
bit about.
Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
It's Wednesday at
So
4. Okay, so the day before.
well, there'll be a lot of
Yep.
news to report
Yeah.
on
So we'll talk
Thursday.
all about free agency next Thursday and all those different things. Again, she's Sara Larson. I'm the big O. Jerry Ostrowski. As always, one love and go Bills.
Go Bills.